Hey guys, of course, it's Batman Beyond 247 come back at you with another video. So today I wanted to talk about Spider-Man PS4, its inevitable sequel. I mean, it was probably the best Spider-Man game of all time, so it's obviously going to get a sequel. So my thing is, they introduce a lot of villains in Spider-Man PS4, and undoubtedly they're going to introduce more during the sequel. Some of the villains they introduced were huge villains. They were Doc Ock and the Sinister Six, and some of them were smaller villains that had a smaller part, like Tombstone or Taskmaster or Black Cat. And believe it or not, when you think about it, they introduced a whole lot of villains. So I wanted to make a top five list for the top five villains I think they should include in the sequel. So here we go. Okay, so coming in at number five is Chameleon. Now, Chameleon is I'll admit, he's a B to C level Spider-Man villain. He's not very well known. However, he's had a bigger presence in series such as Spectacular Spider-Man. He was in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game. So there are people behind him. I don't think it's only, comic fans are gonna know who he is. So, how could he be used? I think personally he should be used like Riddler was in the Batman Arkham games as a collectathon. Maybe he sets up different people, maybe he sets up different bombs, but he should be a side mission, something to do in the open world. He should not be a part of the main story because honestly, I don't think Chameleon has that much behind him to do the main story. However, Chameleon, like I said, Chameleon would be really good as a Riddler-esque person. That's where I think he would really shine. One of the side missions to do, and give some people something else to do besides car chases and regular crimes. Once again, I think Chameleon should be in the Spider-Man PS2, PS4 sequel, but not as he shouldn't be a large character. Okay, here we go, guys. Number four. Now, if you had asked me 3, 4 years ago, I wouldn't have put him on the list. But Spider-Verse is a very Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which was released in 2018, is a very, very popular movie. So I would actually say, I mean, from that movie we have almost all the villains. We have Kingpin in the first game. We have Doctor Octopus. But one villain we don't have is the Prowler. Now, I think this should be a side mission in DLC. I think it would be really cool to have Prowler in Spider-Man PS4 sequel. So what could we use him as? This, I think, would take the place of Taskmaster. Maybe someone where you find certain locations, certain clues leading to his location, and then, we eventually have a boss battle with him. So game mechanics, how would I have the game mechanics work? I would actually have him work as more of he would actually be closer to the shielded thugs from not Silver Lining, the Turf Wars DLC. I'd actually have him work closer to them and have him be agile. Or actually, we could have like a Black Cat chase like we had in the Silver Lining DLC, just to make sure that people know he's a match for Spider-Man in athleticism. So I think it would be cool, Prowler jumping off walls and running really fast, and you as Spider-Man trying to chase him, and then eventually having a boss battle. I think that would be a good setup for him, and he's really popular now, actually thanks to that movie. So I think people would enjoy having him in the movie. In the movie, I mean, in the Spider-Man PS4 sequel. Okay, for number three, we actually have Craven the Hunter. Once again, I do not think this should be in the main game. This is more of a side quest or DLC-esque content. Craven in Amazing Spider-Man 2 was not done well, in my opinion, at all. His motivations were terrible. He didn't make any sense. You know, the storyline was not good. Basically, wasn't good at all. So how could they use Craven? I think if you ask me, if Norman Osborn, if he does become a Green Goblin in the sequel, he would be the mayor. So maybe that puts Spider-Man as a vigilante. I mean, he already is a vigilante, but maybe that would hurt the public's eye of him if they see him fighting Norman Osborn. Norman Osborn says, "Oh, he made an attempt on my life," or something like along those lines. And if Spider-Man is a fugitive, Norman just might call in Craven. Because Craven, instead of being, the jungle hunter that we know him to be, I can see him being more of a mercenary. Spider-Man's PS4's world is a little more realistic, so I think we could have Craven as a mercenary trying to hunt him down. Maybe during the main story, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. I think that would be quite interesting. Having Craven, Craven come after you during the main story. Meanwhile, you're trying to take down Green Goblin and Venom, which I assume are going to be the main villains of the main story based on that post-credit scene from the first Spider-Man game. So I think that would be very interesting. Have Craven in the game, have him, shine a little in the spotlight because he was not portrayed well in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game. So once again, yep, that's what I think. I think Craven should be in this game, and he takes the number 3 spot. So for number 2, we actually have Lizard. So Lizard, once again, I think he can actually fit in either one. He can either fit in not Craven, in the main story or DLC. Although I would, um, if I were Insomniac, I would put him in DLC. I think it would be cool if in DLC, maybe because Spider-Man lost his job with Dr. Octavius, Dr. Octopus, whatever you want to call him, after the events of the main story. So I think it would be cool if he had a job now, like he got another internship with Dr. Connors. And maybe during the main story, Dr. Connors has already lost his arm, but maybe we see, maybe in the background of the main story, we kind of see Dr. Connors tampering with things, and the DLC will be based on Dr. Connors turning into the Lizard and us trying to stop him. I think that would be an amazing way to do the DLC. I mean, fighting Lizard, and especially with Insomniac's art team, could be incredible. So how would this work? Well, Lizard is not an athletic character, so I wouldn't put him as Black. I wouldn't I wouldn't use the same Black Cat-esque things. But what I would do is I would put him more like Hammerhead from Turf Wars. Turf Wars, yeah. I would Turf Wars and Silver Lining actually. I would actually put him as more of that type of character, a brute that swings and you have to dodge and move out of the way. I think that could be really, really cool, a really, really awesome way to introduce Lizard. And then it'll affect Peter more because this is another one of his mentors. Like once again, if we're going with that Green Goblin storyline, his best friend turned into Venom. His his father-esque figure, his best friend's father turned into Green Goblin. His one of his mentors turned into Dr. Octopus, and now his other mentor is turning into Lizard. So I think that would be a really interesting take on Lizard to put in the Spider-Man PS4 game. So that is why he takes the number 2 spot. So for the number 1 spot, we have Carnage. Now, Carnage was in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. However, he was not done that well. He was done mediocre, maybe a little, average villain. He wasn't done. He was scary, but he wasn't a great villain. However, he does have a lot of potential. Now, I've mentioned in, the other rankings on this list that, about the theory that Perry's going to turn into Venom and Norman Osborn is going to turn into Green Goblin. This could be a good way to set up Venom. Obviously, Venom is going to be one of the main antagonists. However, I think it would be cool to have the actual real villain be Carnage. Maybe Venom disappears maybe 50% through the story, halfway through the story, and you have to call back on him and ask him for help because Carnage is too much. I think that would be an amazing storyline. And if you then have Insomniac can have people switch between the two characters. Imagine playing as Spider-Man PS4, Spider-Man from Insomniac Spider-Man, and then switching to Venom. That would be really awesome. That would be an awesome co-op, and you're trying to take down Carnage. I think that's a really, really solid and really good idea. So that's why Carnage takes the #1 spot, and those are my top 5 picks for Spider-Man PS4, its sequel.